Somebody in the past told me one time that whoever you're dating is a direct reflection of where you are at in your life. Like where your head's at, where your mind's at, what lessons you need to learn, all of those types of things. And I thought about that. And I remember in the past, there's been, I've dated so many women that left me with a lot of trauma. And for a long time, I was very defensive in my dating because I didn't want the same experiences that I had in the past. But the thing is I've grown, and I don't trust. And part of that was just because I didn't trust my growth. So I still hadn't learned the lessons, right? Like I still haven't let go of those women from the past, those experiences. And the only way to really let go of those things is to like revisit them in your head and figure out what it is that you're not getting. And a lot of people, they just jump right back into dating without doing this. And they just end up finding the same types of people. They end up having the same things happen to them. And it's all because they haven't learned the lesson. There's some simple lessons in our life, like touching a hot stove, right? Like you don't touch the hot stove because it hurts. Like it and you learn that really fast. But that's such a primitive life lesson compared to dealing with emotions and dealing with yourself and your confidence and all those types of things. It's not so simple. It's not so simple as saying ow and like saying I'm not doing that again because that's that the stove is too hot. It's like you end up falling for somebody who's so fun and exciting, and you're like, oh, this is the best person I've ever dated, and I can't wait to see them again. But a month later they're like ghosting you, or they're out dating somebody else because you're not like you got boring or whatever, you became predictable or something like that, right? Like all those things happen because you're recreating them. It has to do with like when they say manifest, right? Like they're talking about like manifesting stuff into your life. Well, to me, and the way that I understand the way manifesting works is that you have an idea, right? Like you say, oh, well, I want this type of relationship. I want somebody who's stable and somebody who is emotionally mature and somebody who who doesn't. You could have some real basic stuff too, like I want somebody who eats the same way that I do, likes the same foods, or somebody who believes in the same things that I do, or you could say like someone who enjoys the same hobbies, those types of things, like, right? Like you can say all that, and that's great. That's great to ask for those things and to manifest things, people that are on your wavelength. But the thing is like, if you're like sitting there thinking, oh, I hope the next person I date doesn't do this. I hope they don't do that. The reason why you're holding on to those, I hope they don't, like those red flags, the reason why you run into people is because you're focused still on those red flags. And when you have red flags like that, you have to sit down. Those are red flags within yourself. They're not red flags within other people. Like you've got to deal with those red flags because you are still hung up on those red flags. Those red flags are actually what's keeping you from finding the right person. And the reason why that works is because it's still in your head. You're saying you want all these things, and that's great, and you're visualizing somebody. But if you're following it up with, but they can't do this, or they shouldn't do that, or they shouldn't be this way, they shouldn't cheat on me, they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't, like you're still asking for that. The universe doesn't, the universe tries to give you everything that you're asking for, and it's super powerful. So it'll give you, right? The universe will give you these things. And when I say universe, I'm talking about you yourself. Like when you think about things, like say someone mentions pizza to you. Like if I tell you, oh, like a slice of pepperoni pizza would sound so good. The cheese, the bread, like everything. It's Saturday. Like, you can do a little cheat day, right? Like you don't always have to eat healthy. You can have a little pizza, just one slice, a big slice, like a Costco size slice, and you'll be good. That's about 2 slices of a regular pizza. So that's about the serving size, right? And then you get to Costco, and then you start thinking about pizza right now. Like you're thinking about it. You're like, man, maybe it's almost dinner time. It's almost lunchtime. Maybe I should get pizza. You start thinking about it. Even if you don't want it, you're like, oh, I really shouldn't eat pizza. I really shouldn't eat pizza. You're still thinking about like the sauce and the cheese and the grease and the soda that comes along with it. Because, you have to have a soda with pizza. You can't have it without a carbonated drink. Right? All those things come like in your head all together, right? Like they're all in your head. They're all like, those thoughts, they will drive you to go get pizza. After this video, I won't be surprised if most of you actually go out and get pizza for dinner or you make a pizza. But like the thing is like whatever you are saying, like as red flags in your dating life, you're saying, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that. Those are things that are still controlling you beneath the surface. Those are things that are called shadows, right? Like the shadows of people from the past, they still haunt you because you haven't sat down and like thought about them. Like, why do I feel this way? Like for me, I always had issues with people, not people wasting my time, right? Like if I ask a girl out and I'm like, hey, let's go out next Friday, because I always give them at least a week heads up, like a week in advance, because I don't know, my experience, and this is from my past, this is a red flag for me. Like in the past, there have been girls who just, they can't commit. Like you ask them like, oh, let's go out tomorrow night or whatever. They'll say yes, but then tomorrow comes and they don't do it, right? So for me, one of my love languages is quality time. And that really gets on my nerves when when a woman says, yeah, let's do this, and then they flake out, and it could be a legitimate reason. Like they could, feel sick, or something could actually come up, and I'll still be like, oh yeah, this is it. That's it. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm good. And you get pissed off, and then you like go off and you're done, right? You're done with the situation. But that's not entirely their fault. That's your fault for not having gotten over the past situations with the, girls from the past that did that. And like, I remember this girl, I gave her a week. I was like, it was a Monday, right? It wasn't a week, but it was like 4 or 5 days or whatever. But it was Monday, and I was like, let's go out on Friday or Saturday, you choose. And she said Friday. I said, okay, cool. It's Friday night. We're going to meet up for dinner after work. And I already knew I had this expectation that she was going to flake out, but I was just like, nah, that's just me being negative. So we were talking all the way up until an hour before. Everything was great. We knew the place. I had actually set up, I had called in and got a reservation. I had got all, everything was good. I got ready, I showered, and like, it was about 30 minutes out, because it was only like a 10-minute drive from where my apartment was. So I told her like, hey, let me know when you start driving, so that way I can. And I was texting her like every hour or something like that, right before it, like a normal text, right? Like, hey, are you still want to go to dinner later? Are you sure? Like, I wasn't saying like that. It was just like, I only sent her one text message that was just like, hey, are you still good for this evening? She said, yeah. It's great. I'll see you later. Right? Like, that's all I said. And then it was like 30 minutes before, I was like, all right, let me just tell her, like, hey, let me know when you start driving, and I'll start driving too, so we can sort of meet there at the same time. This was 30 minutes before. This is after a week of talking about it. And then, like, and I'm not talking about obsessive, just, I can't wait to see you again on Friday, right? Or I can't, like, and that was like, maybe I said that on Wednesday, and then on Friday, I was, I was like, hey, it's that time, we're gonna head out, like, or whatever. I can't wait to see you, whatever. Are you still up for it? And she's like, yeah, great. I just want to emphasize that it was a normal conversation. I wasn't being weird or anything. So 30 minutes before, after a whole week of all this, she says, I don't, she just didn't text me. She didn't respond to that. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, I'll just go anyway. I'll just go. I'll just meet her there. Maybe she's getting busy or actually, that's probably what was happening. But I was like, maybe she's just busy. Maybe she's just like trying to like get her makeup on or whatever. I was like, I'll just go. I'll just head out and I'll just be there. And this girl is never late. She's always on time. In fact, she's like one of the only girls that I've ever dated that is so poignant. Like, I don't know if that's how you say the word, but like, she was so on time on everything. Like, she was very hardcore about her schedule. And I love that about her because of the whole quality time thing, right? So I get to the restaurant. I'm waiting. I get seated because, we had reservations. So I'm sitting there and I text her, no answer. I call her because it was like, at that point, it was like 20 minutes later. I've been sitting there waiting. So I give her a call. Goes straight to voicemail. So I'm like, all right, it's 30 minutes later. I just, I just got up. I just like, sorry. I said sorry to the restaurant or whatever and to the server. And it was just like, she just didn't show up. And server was like, I understand. So I left. And it wasn't until midnight that night when she sent me a text message saying like, oh, I just ate tacos. So, but anyway, it was like midnight when she told me I didn't feel like going. She was like, I felt sick or something. And I was like, why didn't you just tell me that? Like, why didn't you just tell me that you felt sick? There's a normal thing, but it wasn't that. It was, and I'll tell you later, like what happens. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So at this point, I'm over this girl. Like, I'm just like, I'm not going to go on a date with her again. She's going to have to do all the work. She's going to have to invite me. She's going to have to do all that. I'm not going to invite her to another date. I was like, it's over. So whatever. And she's got to do all the initiating from now because I already put enough effort in, and that's it. So I'm good. So I don't text her. I'm not like messaging her or nothing. It was like a week goes by where she didn't text me. So I was like, all right, it's over, whatever. And so she texts me like a week later and she says, can we talk? And I was like, in my head, it was already over. Like I was done with her. I just didn't care. And I was like, sure. I texted Messenger like, sure, I guess. I was like, where do you want to talk? Like, do you want to call me or what? She was like, no, let's meet. I was like, okay. So we meet up at this park. And I insisted before that we go to the gas station so we can get some, some drinks and snacks and stuff. So we get there. We go to the gas station. And then at the park, she starts telling me like, she's like, it wasn't that I got sick. She was just like, my boyfriend just came home. And I was so like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, what do you mean your boyfriend? She's like, I date multiple guys. She's like, everyone does that. And I was like, I don't do that. Like, I don't date multiple people at the same time. I mean, I was like, I don't even have the time to date one person usually is. And I just told her like, and she was like, well, he didn't want me to go out with you that night. He wanted me to stay home. And I'm like, so he lives now I'm thinking about it, it's so funny. But I was just like, so he lives with you. And I just was so like taken back from this whole conversation. I just told her, I was like, I can't do this. I told her, I was like, I just can't do this. Like, I'm not going to do this. Like, this is crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And so that situation, and then, so anyway, that situation was over, right? Like, granted, like that girl kept, she kept trying to, she was really cute. So like she kept trying to like send me messages and texting and stuff like that. So I was like, whatever. I was like, let's try again, because this time she was like, I broke up with everybody. She's like, I can't stop thinking about you, that kind of stuff, right? So she's like, I can't stop thinking about you. She's like, I feel so bad. Will you give me another chance? Let's just go on one date. Okay, cool. I go on a date with her. And this time she shows up. This time she is on point. She pays for my dinner, and she's like super, like she wore like, the best outfit I've seen her in. And she had gone way out of her way to make herself look, she did a lot. She went out, got her hair done and her nails, everything. She was like dressed really, like she looked really hot, and like everything was great. But the thing is I still kept thinking about that thing, and like, I'm like, I just couldn't trust her. I was like, there's no way that she just broke up with this guy or whatever. They were living together. It's like, how are they doing this? Like, ain't no way, is what I kept saying in my head. Like, there's no way that this situation is right. Like, there's no way. And what ended up happening was like, I just took, I was just one day, we were on like, so that day went really great. And then there was another date that we had set up, and I told her, I was just like, there's just, I don't believe you. I don't trust that. One, I was like, I don't trust that you broke up with anyone. And also, like, you were living with this person. And she was like, yeah. She's like, I'm moving out like on this day. And she showed me her move out date. And like, she showed me like that she was legitimately moving out. And then I was just like, yeah, but are you just moving to a new place with this guy? Is what I kept asking. So I could not get it out of my head that she was still with that person. I was like, there's no way. And guess what? I was so correct. You always have to trust your gut. But anyway, this situation with this girl happened again with another girl that I dated after her. So like, I kept having these issues about like these girls, maybe they're just cheating on their, on their guys. I kept thinking that. I couldn't trust any girl after that for a long time. Like, it was maybe like 5 years that went by where I was just like running into these girls that were just cheating on other guys, and I was the one that they were cheating on with. So it was just like, in Spanish, it's like Sancho. Like, I was the Sancho for all these girls, and I'm like, what the, like, do I just, anyway, how this matters to what I was saying earlier is that, like, I had to take the time to literally sit down and go over why all of this happened. Why did this happen to me? What am I thinking about? And it went back, and I kept thinking backwards and backwards and backwards in my life. And then finally, it was abandonment. It had to do with my childhood and abandonment. And like the trust, like you can't trust people like when your parents just abandon you, right? Like you can't trust any humans, like humans, especially, like think about like your parents, the relationship you have with your parents are supposed to be unconditional love, right? Like unconditional love, like no matter what happens, they're supposed to be there for you. But when they're not, like anyone in the future it's going to be so hard for you to allow somebody in that space, because you can't. You have to sit down and you have to like deal with it. You have to like go through the motions and cry and like get and like go back into that space when you were abandoned, and like remember that you are enough, that it wasn't your fault. Like you have to go through all of those thoughts. Like you have to realize that like you are enough for you and for everyone else, like those types of things. And you don't have to deal with these types of people, or like, you know, there's everyone has a different lesson when it comes to these types of issues, right? Like everyone has different types of lessons. So like you have to get into that headspace and understand what your lesson is. For me, it was about being good enough for love, and not, you know, like once I started to understand that I deserve like all the love, because I was giving that love to myself, right? Like I was the one that was like, I had to like fall in love with myself first, so that I could know that like I was deserving of all that I was deserving of a beautiful, trusting relationship, a relationship built on trust. And that was, you know, like that was the main lesson. And like once you do that, what happens is like you don't even accept any dates from anyone that has this pain, because you can see it, you can feel the pain on the other person. Like if someone comes to you and they have this type of pain that you understand, like you can tell who's in pain when it comes to like abandonment stuff, or like any type of pain. It could be abuse, right? Like you can tell when somebody's been abused. If you have been abused yourself, you can tell when someone else has been abused. It pops out. Like other people can't see it, but you can see it very clearly. Like you might not see it like immediately, but you're going to see it. Whatever type of pain you had, you're going to recognize that pain, because that pain, you know, especially if you dealt with it. If you haven't dealt with those types, if you haven't dealt with the pain and the traumas in your life, then you're not going to see it. They're just going to keep showing up until you do see it. So for me, it's like once I started seeing it, it was so easy to like go back into these memories that I had of these women and like forgive them for it, because, you know, they're carrying a pain that you just now understand and have dealt with and healed from. And that is how you manifest the right person into your life. And the thing is about manifestation is that it takes time. The more specific you are, the older you get, the more you learn about life, the longer it's going to take for the universe to match and align the stars so that you can meet the person that you're manifesting. Because as you grow older and as you go into more relationships, you learn, you know, like what you want, what you don't want, but more so what you want is what you start focusing on. Like that becomes the main thing is in your head, is like, and every relationship after you go through your lessons and you learn and you adjust your mind and you start to look at everything more clearly. And more importantly, the most important thing is that you become way more loving to yourself. You're like, I deserve this, I deserve that. Like, I do not deserve to be treated like this. I don't deserve to be, talked to like that, or I don't deserve to have these feelings that I'm getting, right? Like, I don't deserve all this pain. I deserve nothing but a good life. And you can only get there if you learn from the bad. Otherwise, the bad just keeps showing up, because those are your lessons. They keep showing up for you because you have so much to deal with. So when I go on TikTok and I see all these videos about all these people talking about relationships, you got a room full of like kids, 20-year-olds, like talking to each other about relationships and what they want and what shouldn't happen and what should happen and who's this and who's that. I think it's just so silly that people are listening to these kids like talk about this stuff, because they have zero life experience and they're talking about it like they understand it. They don't even understand themselves. I can see it. Just remember when I said that you can see pain. When you understand pain, you can see it so crystal clear. You can hear it, you can smell it, taste it, feel it on your skin. Like it just like oozes over you. You can really feel it. And it's just, I just see it pouring out of these TikTok videos from these podcast kids, right? It's silly. And like there's a lot of people who are unhealed, right? There's like a guy that I see with sunglasses. He's like one person. When I look at him, I'm like, this guy is full of trauma. Like this guy has PTSD. This guy has the most trauma I've ever seen on anyone that I've ever seen on any of those TikToks. And he's the loudest in the room. And he's just causing damage. He's giving people like these ideas that are meant for himself, and he's giving them off as if they're universal experiences. They're not. So when it comes to, pain, not everyone is going to experience pain the same way. Not everyone is going to learn or needs to learn lessons from certain pain, certain things. And it's just, I don't know. I just think it's just silly when I look at this stuff like online. And I've been wanting to do a video on relationships for so long. And man, I had to filter myself on some of on like, I did this video a couple times because like it was so hard. It was so hard to piece together the words correctly because it's such a touchy subject. But the thing that I want to put across is just that like everyone has their own lessons. No one is going to have the same experience. You might have very similar experiences to other people, right? Like, because we're men and women and we've, like so on and so forth, right? We're they, thems. But like everybody doesn't have the same experience. Everyone has different things to heal from. Everyone is a very unique experience, and everyone is an entire universe of things. Like every person has a giant backstory. Those people that work at Subway, right? Like the sandwich makers, those people, they have whole stories. They have like so much depth to them. Those trash guys, right? Like the guys that are out there, like, taking the trash out or putting the carts, back into the store, right? Those types of people, like the people you think of as NPCs, like those people that are just out there, like they have whole stories. They have a whole, like, it's like bigger story than the Game of Thrones. Like they are so in depth. There's so much depth to every person. that like to say that we all should, that's like one of the main things I have against religion, is that like there's so many like statements that are like, these are universal statements. No, they're not. They're really not. They're really it's just, I think it's just silly. There's so much stuff in this world that's so silly to me, because when you start to understand and you start to do this work with pain, everything starts to make sense. Like you don't have like, you no longer need outside validation after you start to do this work, because the love that you have for yourself is fulfilling enough. You don't even need to have relationships, to be honest. Like the thing for like, the other thing is you change the reasons why you want a relationship. For me, it was like, in the past, it was like, I just want somebody that somebody to talk to, and like somebody to have conversations with and all this. It's like what I learned about that is like, if you're a guy, the last thing you want to do is share like your feelings and like do feelings, with the woman that you love. The reason why is because those are your burdens. Those are your pains to learn from. Like, you shouldn't put that on somebody else's shoulders. Those are for you, because that other person, they probably have even more pain to deal with than you do. So like, you can't just start stacking stuff on somebody else. Right? Like those pains are a lot to deal with. And like people like, I think there's a lot of guys out there. Sorry, I'm not going to say this, but like I'm not going to say a lot of guys anymore, because, or a lot of girls or a lot of people or whatever. I'm trying not to say that, because like I said, I don't believe in universal experiences. But so some people out there, right? Like, they've never dealt with any of their pain, and you can't like introduce them to new pains that they don't even know about, that you're suffering from, because they haven't even like dealt with their own. So how are they going to empathize with you? Right? And so if you're a guy, the best thing you can do for your like relationship is to, or as a person, I mean, whether you're a guy or a girl, as a person, you don't put all that trauma on somebody else. What you do is, if you want help with your own trauma, go see a therapist. It's just like, most guys don't ask their girlfriends to give them a fade, right, in their haircut or whatever, because you go to your barber for your fade. Or you can go catch a fade outside. I'm kidding. But no, I'm just saying, like, you just have to go to the right people for those things, right? Like, if you want help with yourself, like your pain and your traumas, go to a therapist, go to a psychiatrist, start somewhere, go to your doctor, right? Like, go deal with it with a professional. Or, even better, establish a relationship with your higher self. Start meditating. Start doing shadow work. Start, find a way to start dealing with your emotions and your traumas, and get back to the basics. Get a solid foundation. When you become a solid person, when you deal with everything, then you will attract somebody who is of the same caliber as you. Somebody who's gone through and done the work. Somebody who's like figured it out just like you. Because and the reason why is not because like they're going to magically come into your life. It's because real recognizes real. Like, pain, people who have pain and who have dealt with pain, when they see you shining from your healing, They know that you are somebody who is worthy of their time. You can see it. When you start healing, also the opposite happens. You see these people that are not healed and you're like, no, I'm not going to deal with that. But those people that are not healed, they see you healed. They're going to want you and they're going to be like easy pickings. But you don't want that. You're going to say no because you already know what the cost is of somebody with a lot of pain. That's how simple it is like, I mean, it's really not simple, but it is. Like, you got to heal. And in order to do that, you got to like start by recognizing your pain. Start by recognizing, like, stop saying that it's somebody else that's doing stuff to you. And stop saying like, oh, it's all these girls, or oh, it's all these guys, or whatever. Instead of saying all that, like these podcast people, instead start taking the accountability on yourself. I'm the one choosing the wrong person. I'm allowing the wrong people into my life. I'm allowing these people who are just out to cause harm because they don't love themselves, right? Like, I'm allowing them into my life, and now my life is my emotions are in shambles. My emotional like stability is at risk. All that stuff. For me, I have a lot of work. I know I have so much work to do. Like, personally, I'm still dealing with my pains and traumas and stuff like that. And it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work. But it is such a huge relief when you get through it. And when I say relationships, I'm not just talking about love, intimate relationships, all kinds of relationships, business relationships, friendships, intimate, romantic relationships, all kinds of relationships that you have. They all get better when you start healing. Literally, it's like a brand new day. It's like, I don't know. You just have to experience it for yourself, and I'm sure a lot of you are there. But for me, these lessons have been cultivated for so long for me, and I'm glad I could put it down in a Minecraft video and post it. But anyway, if you like this video, hit the like button. I appreciate you guys for listening. And I hope you guys have an epic day or night. And peace out.